Praise be to Jesus Christ. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, we are on the second Sunday in Lent. Today's Gospel presents to us the episode of Jesus in Mount Tabor during his transfiguration. This is a very powerful and life-transforming event and moment for the disciples of Jesus, Peter, John, and James, who had accompanied him for prayers. What was the Transfiguration episode all about? We can say it is a time when Jesus was being revealed, being manifested as a continuation of God's saving work, along with Moses, who represents the Old Testament, and Elijah, who represents the prophets. Jesus is, however, different from the two of them because he brings the law of Moses and the promises of the prophets into fulfillment. In fact, the voice from the clouds affirms Jesus' identity, that he is the beloved Son of God. It is him whom we must listen. The transfiguration of Jesus is an anticipation, a foretaste, a foresight, an advanced realization, an already experience of a future resurrection, an act of advance, a contemplation of the glory of his resurrection. Here and now, in this moment and time, Peter, John, and James find themselves in the midst of the life-transforming event of the resurrection of Jesus. It's like the disciples were given an opportunity to share a taste of the powerful resurrection of Jesus before it happens. Jesus, however, commands them not to share this secret with anybody until his resurrection. And now the disciples have to descend from the mountain, for Jesus must embrace human life in its totality, be it suffering, challenges, crisis, insults, resurrection. He has to embrace it in order for him to redeem it. My dear brothers and sisters, the real battle, the real confusion that the disciples will have to endure for some time before the resurrection of Jesus is that they must witness his death, they must witness his suffering. The disciples must painfully learn to accept that before resurrection happens, there is a painful process of suffering and death that Jesus must go through. And by extension, not only Jesus, but even the disciples, and even every other person who would wish to reach the same goal of resurrection. The process is painful, and there is no shortcut about it. Jesus will have to live it. Even though he is the beloved Son of God, he must embrace the scandal of the cross. And the disciples too must walk the same process, and we ourselves, who are sons and daughters of God, to reach the goal of the life of resurrection, we have to trust the process. We have to accept to experience our own passion and death. There is no resurrection without death. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, the process is very complex, and thus it calls for courage. As human beings and as Christians, we would prefer to continue staying on the mountain. The mountain for us might look better. The mountain might be our prayers or even the Eucharist, for there are the moments when we unite so closely with Jesus. They are beautiful and they are important moments. But Jesus is challenging us to go down the mountain to face the complexity of life with the hope of resurrection. That we can't remain praying in the church the whole day. We can't remain before the Eucharist the whole day. We can't remain doing praise and worship the whole day. We must now descend to go and face the complexities of life in our homes, in our places of work, in our marriages, in our social and political life. And we should not fear to suffer and die in our fight for justice, transparency, and even reconciliation. I want to challenge us to descend from our mountains and to go into the streets and corners of our everyday life and there to witness through our actions of everyday life that what we experience in our prayers and in the Eucharist and in our praise and worship is what we live and witness with our lives. That our being sons and daughters of God, the visible fruits of the resurrection of Jesus, is not just an identity that is lived only in the church or during our praise and worship or during our prayers, but rather it is whom we are in each and every moment of our life. My dear brothers and sisters, trusting the process means walking the talk, and walking the talk means not talking with words, but with our lives as Jesus do. May we ask for the grace of God so that in the complexity of our lives, we might witness to Jesus and we might witness to his resurrection. And may God bless you.